Oh, here we go. A little bit of KSP action going. Oh, and what's up, guys? Chozo Nomad here. This game is like super fun and addicting. It's generally amazing if you have patience. I mean, it's really tedious, but at the same time, still really fun. Alright, got my SATCOM network up and going. As you can see, I'm gonna get rid of this guy. Oh, I can't. Anyway. Yep, got SATCOM going. This guy, this guy. And here it is. KFS Highwind, Kerbin Federation ship. If it'll load. Oop. Ah, the frame rate. Yep, here's my little ship. I'm trying to control from here, that way the nav ball makes more sense. Unfortunately, due to my launch vehicle, I'm going counterclockwise the way I want to be going. So what I'm going to try and do is do a slingshot maneuver where I hit the moon's gravity well and swing back around and get myself back in order that way. I should have enough fuel for it. Should being the key word there, key phrase. That's the theory. Oh my. I know, there's a whole other fuel tank back there. Okay, so my first stage of these guys is almost done. But I should have enough. So let's see. Alright, I'm going to do it right here. And maneuver. There we go. Now you can see this guy right here freaking out, trying to make sense of everything. But that's the encounter I want. And it's a big Delta V maneuver, but not too big. I want to get that Delta V as small as possible. Pink. Alright. That's what I want. Because see, if you look, I'm going to pass just on the outside of the moon. Actually, let's bump that up a little. There we go. Yeah, okay. There we go. That's more like it. As you can see, it's going to grab me and start swinging me back in a clockwise direction. When I hit the parapsis here, I'm going to retrograde burn. See if I can slingshot my way around and establish a normalized orbit around Kerbin. Now that's the theory. I don't know if it's actually going to work. So, let's take a look. Oh, and this chip is amazing. It's so nimble. I don't even need to use RCS when trying to course correct or anything like that. It's very responsive. Not overly twitchy, not overly sluggish. As you can see, I got 3 nuclear engines here in the back. Loads of RCS here in the center. Even though I don't need it. I do need to refuel RCS though. So I'll get a ship up here. Hopefully I can get that going. Got my little battery of solar panels up here. For some reason I need to redesign this so these will actually distribute power, because this probe down here is my backup in case the main one fails. That probe and one other thing. constantly drain power. You can see how it's draining power from there, and it's not draining power from the batteries, which is not something I want. Then, oh crap, I've passed my burn point. Oopsie. Yikes. Should be good. See if I can get myself on the other side. Look at that. Look how nimble it is. No RCS, and the whole ship's just going whee. A little bit of RCS just around. Yeah, let's watch this guy. So, with any amount of luck, well, I could actually get out of the solar system with this. Okay, so with any amount of luck, I'm gonna hit the moon, slingshot around, come back pretty much the exact same way, but go in the opposite direction. So, let's see how this goes. What's my fuel at? No, I'm good on fuel. Alright. But yeah, I've launched this whole thing into orbit just as is. No assembly required. Barely used any of my fuel to fully establish my orbit. I might post the ship craft file, but as you can see there are a couple things I need to tweak, like this strut's not connected, the armor's a little off. This was mostly just an experiment for me, trying to get a frigate in space. But yeah, let's see how this goes. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened. My software I was using just stopped recording for a bit. You didn't miss much, just me making it to the moon. Hey, my audio also kind of cut out on the latter portion of this as well, so I'm just gonna talk over this for the rest of the video. That way you guys can actually hear what I'm saying, versus just a bunch of mumbles over the wonderful sounds of Kerbal Space Program. So I've just completed my burn to the moon. I'm about to do a intercept and a Parapsis burn, try and equalize out my orbit. I also realized here that I'm running low on electricity, so I popped out my solar panels, try and get some electricity going back to them. You know, just a nice bit of electric flow. I've considered putting those the nuke generators on this thing, but they almost feel a little cheap to me. I know there are arguments out there that it's supposed to be like a higher thrust to power ratio, whatever it is, but I don't know. I just like having the solar panels out there. Feels more legitimate. So I just go here, go ahead and start my burn. You can see at the bottom there, I've passed my burn point yet again. I get distracted easily. I have ADD, leave me alone. And I start to try and just push my Parapsis out there just enough to establish something. Because the moon doesn't have an atmosphere, as you guys know, so you can get as close to it as you want to and not worry about burning off momentum as you get really close. So you don't have to spend excess delta V to try and push your Parapsis out to where you want it to go. So it's just a matter of efficiency. I mean, that's why I'm doing this whole maneuver in the first place, this whole moon slingshot crazy maneuver that might not work. That's just so I can conserve delta V and fuel out there, because if you're in an equatorial orbit around a solar body or like Kerbin or whatever, and you try and flip that orbit, it is virtually impossible because, one, you've killed all your momentum and you're going to start falling back towards the planet like a rock. Because that's essentially what an orbit is you are moving forward faster than the gravity of the planet can pull you into it. So it's quite literally you're learning to throw yourself at the ground and miss is what establishing an orbit is. But if you're in an established orbit, you're already moving. I think to establish an orbit around Kerbin, it's like 2,300 meters a second or something along those lines. So if you already have that orbit established and you want to flip that 180 degrees the other direction, you have to cancel out all that forward momentum that you're going in that orbit. So you have to stop all the 2,300 meters one direction and reestablish that exact same momentum going the opposite direction, which is just an absurd amount of delta V. I mean, what do you combine that? You get close to 5,000 meters a second delta V change, which is just ridiculous. I mean, even for small ships, that's an absurd amount of delta V in order to pull off. And with this little frigate here, I mean, even with those nuclear engines, I don't think I'd have enough fuel within this ship to pull off that kind of a maneuver. Especially considering I haven't refueled it yet, which I've yet to do. Oddly enough. I mean, I just got the full version of this game. I've been messing around with the demo. You might have seen one of my previous video where I make it to the moon and back using just the demo parts. That was a lot of engineering. Now, if you watch here, you'll watch the apoapsis and paraapsis that they're shifting sides ever so slowly. And you may have noticed earlier how it flipped as well. And that is my orbital inclination changing. So instead of going from east to west, I'll be going from west to east now. So I have just established my orbit. I'm going to cut out the part where I normalize it, make it all nice and even. That's pretty simple to do. You just line up the equatorial lines with your apoapsis and paraapsis, and then tweak it from there. That's a lot of what this game is just experimentation, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and okay, this will do, this won't do. It's a lot of experimentation. But yeah, so in order to do a 180 on your orbital movements, you'd have to do over 5,000 delta V of momentum change, which is absolutely ridiculous, and that's not something you want to do. So I'm trying this maneuver here just to see if I can barely make it out without having to expend a ridiculous amount of fuel. And so here I'm just doing a beauty pass, because I like this ship. It's the first frigate I've gotten into space. So this little Kerbal here is going out, take a look at everything, make sure it all is nice and pretty, everything's working right, nothing's broken off in flight or anything like that. It is, as you notice, it's all structural panels, which it makes for very effective armor. It's got an impact tolerance of, I believe, 80. So you can hit this with a fairly decent amount of force, and that casing will not crack. When I was trying to first get this thing into orbit, I was having quite a lot of trouble with the launch vehicle and trying to keep this thing stable. I may throw up a video later of trying to get this thing into orbit once I correct some maladies of it. But yeah, I was trying to get this thing out with a launch vehicle, and the launch vehicle collapsed underneath it, as expected. I'm sure you guys have had that happen to you before. And the whole thing just collided into the ground and exploded. But the thing is, all the internals exploded, but that casing, that armored casing, actually stayed intact and flew off into who knows where. I think there's actually still some of it by the KSC down back on Kerbin. But yeah, this Kerbal's just going around doing his inspection of all this armor plating. I may make a civilian version of this, like a strictly exploration. Save myself some mass so I can get out further without using quite as much fuel. But yeah, so that was me getting to the moon. I'm gonna end it here for now, so I can, upload it within YouTube's restrictions. So that's it. I'll see you next time.